Okay, so let's get started. And first of all, just finding your position that you're in now. It doesn't have to be special in any way. And see if you can already, even maybe as you're adjusting or just looking around, just to already become aware of the position of the body, the sensation of the body. Just knowing that you can do this even as you kind of look around and then let's close the eyes together. And then just in a snap, aware of the body. We don't have to build up to it, but just what's happening right now. Maybe the attention jumps around inside the body, which is fine. Maybe you feel the whole body at the same time. But just kind of allowing the body to come into focus. And you might allow any hardness to soften inside the body. And really allowing yourself to rest in the body. And everything is still happening. We don't have to stop any part of our experience. Thoughts are still happening, sounds, imagination is still working. But just allowing ourselves just to enjoy the sensations of the body. And let's briefly check in with the different body parts. So allowing the head to come into focus. Anything in or on the outside of the head. Whatever you feel here is the reality as you're experiencing it in the moment. And the left arm, from a shoulder to fingertip. And the right arm, and the neck, and chest, and the ribs and the front of the torso down to the groin, and the upper part of the back, and the lower half of the back. And the entire pelvis, and the entire left leg, different sensations appearing in every moment. Even if it has the same cause, the feeling or the sensation of it is different in every moment. And the right leg, and now feeling the entire body, we have this clarity of our awareness spatially, so we kind of know the location of different sensations. The hand is in a different location than the foot. And through time, different sensations appear every moment. Maybe you notice something else. Even if you return to the same sensations. Different phenomena, different appearances of mind and body. Temporal clarity. And lastly, also the qualitative clarity. So parts of the body feel different from each other. Some are more light, more heavy, some more higher energy, lower energy. Some feel tired, some feel excited, some feel tense, some feel relaxed. Whatever it is. Some feel pleasant, some feel unpleasant. So allowing these different sensations to just be witnessed over time, different in every moment. And we feel what we feel. We don't need to create anything extra or feel more. You don't even need to use effort. It's appearing all on its own. Okay, and then slowly opening eyes again and just allowing the world to come back into focus, the surroundings, the colors, the lights, the textures, the objects. And see that you can still feel the body. So throughout this talk, I invite you just to periodically to feel the body. Whenever you remember, maybe you'll remember once or twice or 10 times or 0 times. But when you remember, just feel the body briefly. Okay. Welcome, everyone, again. Today I want to talk a little bit about how this practice can be applied more toward the daily life, and also how to continue practicing after this course. 10 days is not really much time, even we're doing 2 hours a day, but this can really be just the seed or the beginning of a practice that really can help transform the way you relate to experience in every moment. So the first thing I just want to ask again is, what did you notice specifically in relation to the mind and body? So especially with sensations or feelings of the body, what did you notice appearing during your meditations, during your day? What did you see? And you can just write that in the chat in a few words. Or maybe what do you notice just now in the can be just now what we just meditate together a little bit? Did you notice how the body felt? How the mind felt? Okay. Unpleasant sensations. The mind draws to it like a magnet. Unhappiness about the unpleasant sensation. Yes, the mind draws to it like a magnet. Nice. My senses feel like they've been walking, hearing, seeing, touching, tasting. Yes, this can happen in the beginning. The sense doors, they open. We start to hear and see and touch and taste in a way that we haven't before, because before we were actually just thinking about seeing, thinking about touching, thinking about tasting. But as we start to really tune ourselves to feel sensation before thinking, we start to contact more the actual experience of the 5 senses. Great. The sensation of almost getting goosebumps, and this stays longer. Ah, yes. So this is some kind of, it feels like a little bit pleasant, almost like a bubbly, vibratory feeling. It's called piti. Can appear in meditation. Is not the goal. It's just a phenomena. Tingling sensations, especially in the extremities. Trunk is hard to feel. Great. Improved self-care, sugar and carbs have gone, easier social engagement, more open to others. Nice. Okay, so what does mind and body tend to do? Usually, we are experiencing a lot the grasping, the clinging of the habit of clinging, where our system our being, our mind and body, kind of grasps after different phenomena that it likes, or grasps after things that it doesn't like, kind of clenches around them. As Faith, you were saying, this kind of feeling of the mind becoming a magnet, or like a magnet drawing towards what's unpleasant, and kind of like not happy about this. We want this to go away. But this is also this kind of grasping, clinging, or even when things are pleasant, this kind of clinging to that. So things that happen in the world, in the outside world, and things that you like, things that you don't like, things that happen in your mind, your thoughts, your imagination. If you start thinking about something nice, we like that. The mind gets drawn to that like a magnet. The mind wants more of that. If we start thinking about something we don't like, the mind doesn't like that. And at the same time, the mind kind of grasps onto it because it doesn't like it. It reifies it, because it doesn't like that. And all of this grasping, this clinging, can be felt inside the body. It can be felt as contraction. It can be felt as some sensation in or on the body. And last week I introduced that the mind and the world as it's appearing is kind of influencing and impacting the nervous system and the feeling of the nervous system, the sensations that we have on the body. But this also goes the other way around. So when our nervous system is kind of in this more contracted state, more grasping, or maybe more open, more joyous, in the same place, the world somehow seems then more open, more joyous, more expansive, and all our thoughts are more happy, more joyful. And on the other hand, also, if we find ourselves in some anger or some anxiety or something, the whole world suddenly becomes anxious, and we project this anxiety onto the world around, and maybe we feel that the people around us are very strange or weird, or we notice all the annoying things around us in the world. Sometimes we notice all the happy things. So it's almost like the state of the system is like wearing these tinted glasses that color our experience. Sometimes positive, sometimes negative, sometimes neutral. And we tend to kind of the habit is to cling, to grasp, to perpetuate the states as they come, as they go. So to cling, to grasp onto the things we don't like, to cling onto and grasp onto the things that we like. What we're practicing is just to release a bit this kind of stronghold that we have, and more kind of, if you really now make this fist, meditation is much more like a release of the hand, actually, to release the tension that we habitually hold around different things. So that we can hold all these things that happen in our life, in our world, in our mind, in our body, with more openness, not necessarily to not experience joy, to not experience pleasure, to not experience anger, to not experience anxiety. These things all come and go, but we can allow ourselves to feel them actually with more of this kind of open hand feeling, rather than tightening around the things. And this is what we are practicing to do. Did anyone maybe notice this feeling of tightening, of contracting, of clenching, maybe in the body, or it can also, maybe you felt it in the mind, in the head? Yeah, if anyone wants to share anything about that.
Yeah, often. I think sometimes when I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do the body scanning now, focus Alba, and then I get almost too tight with it. Like I notice, oh, I'm a bit tense, or I like my brow is a bit furrowed and contracted, because I'm like, okay, I gotta feel things. And then I'm like, okay, relax.
And then what do you do then? You relax. When you say relax,
I
you relax the body or the
yeah,
attitude?
I try to like actively release the tension in the places I feel it in the body, like in relation to this, like these new little tensions which arise because I think you know, maybe I've got like more ongoing tension in the shoulders and I can't just relax that very easily, but at least in the brow and maybe in the hands, try to let that go, and then try to remember this. Okay, I don't actually have to do. I don't have to like scan the body as such so actively. I just have to let the sensations come to me, like let them arise and just be there to feel them.
Beautiful, wonderfully said. Thank you, Alba. Yeah, absolutely. So this clenching, this clinging of the mind, when the mind starts to get contracted around some idea, like, oh, okay, I have to do the body scanning really good. So it can be something also related to the meditation, or also has a physical counterpart in the clenching of maybe habitual areas of clenching, like you were saying, Alba, and the eyebrows, shoulders, hands. And often when we just learn to relax and then notice this and just relax a little bit, maybe we can't relax it completely, but often this also helps the mind then open up a little bit. And likewise, if we relax a little bit the attitude in the mind, how we are approaching things, it will also relax a little bit more the body. So we can work with both levels. And this is really a function of awareness and how aware we are of the body. If we are not aware that we're clenching, we cannot possibly relax the clenching. But once we start to notice this and over again, oh, I'm noticing I'm doing it, I relax, I stop doing it, I cease the doing. Then that becomes the new default state to relate. Yeah, now I'm really practicing, especially with physical things sometimes. For example, yesterday I broke my motorbike, wasn't starting. The battery was like dead because I had parked it for a few days. And then I kind of like, I had to kickstart it and kind of set the bike up. And I noticed like this inner tension or this inner like rushing feeling, even though I wasn't really in a rush, that accompanied it. And just to instantly relax that feeling in the body somehow, such a relief. It's like putting down a heavy weight that was being carried often for no reason. Yeah. So what happens in the body and the mind is when we don't really have this awareness, or when we're not used to this way of being, these kind of, firstly, there's this very solid narrative that continues and that we uphold in our life. Like, I am Rama and I go to do this and I go to that, and now I feel bad about this, not so good about this, I'm going to do that, and now I have to do this and that, and then and there's this kind of continuity of experience. And once in a while, these tensions arise, or these sometimes they can stay for a little bit, sometimes they stay for a couple of days, a bad mood that comes that we can't get out of, and where everything seems to be tainted by that experience, and we can't seem to get a clearer picture or a bigger picture view. We're really caught in it, and then maybe a few days later, or by doing something else, we move through it, but they come and go. And what we're starting to do as we're developing more clarity of our experience, what I was mentioning before, this temporal clarity, so that experience is different every moment, the spatial clarity, that actually what is like one solidified thing, my mind and my body, is actually made out of actually many different phenomena that are occurring. And the qualitative, so I can see that there's different qualities here. Sometimes there's heaviness, sometimes contraction, sometimes expansion, different qualitative flavors. So we start to, okay, yeah, so in these moments, there's kind of this clinging and holding. But we start to, as we start to bring importance to the body and mind rather than the world, and start to have this attitude more of relaxing this hand almost, if the mind and body is a hand. And we just see the body and mind in that moment. And instead of being this kind of big black box, it starts to become like more manageable components, like, oh, okay, there's some tension now in the shoulders or in the brows, and I notice I have this attitude of trying very hard, where before it was something more intense that your whole sense of personality and identity was tied up with. Now it's just much more something that's appearing. And further on also, this starts to actually then influence this this narrative. So instead of having this thick fixed narrative that's continuously going and that we're holding on to, it starts to become a bit more light, a bit more open, and we notice more and more that actually experience isn't as black and white. It's actually more of like a constant flux and flow of different sensory phenomena, moment to moment, that we pass through from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to bed. Is different every moment. Even if you feel the body now, it's different than in the beginning of the class. Yes. So this is kind of where we're going with this. We're building this clarity of body and mind to see this more clearly, and to see when the mind makes things out of things. This is the habit of the mind. The more we clench, the more we grasp, the more something becomes something big and solid in the head, and it becomes a really big thing. Whereas if we really attend to the moment of it, it starts to dissolve a little bit. Yeah, Jack, you were saying about possibility. Yeah, there's more possibilities. There's choice actually in that space of awareness. We see more. We notice that, oh, I have a choice here of how to perceive myself. It's not so black and white as my anxiety wants to tell me, as my anger wants to tell me, as whatever it is. So we start to actually have a choice. We start to have a choice between these two different modes of viewing, whether things are just body and mind, whether we use more mindfulness to feel the body and to see the thoughts, or whether we engage more with the world. So I'm not saying that 100% mindfulness is always the best way to use it. No, we have the option. So sometimes I get, like now I'm talking and I'm engaging and I'm creating a lot of ideas and things from in the slide that I thought about, and creating ideas and trying to communicate them into your mind, and kind of calculating how you perceive me, how you perceive what I'm saying, and using all these delusions, actually thoughts, all these thoughts, delusions. So more in this kind of mind realm. But when I choose to just to kind of, okay, flick the switch, I notice I'm getting maybe carried away or tense or contracting around something and trying very hard, caring too much, and then just to, okay, body, thinking, relaxing, feeling a little bit, and just to play with that balance a little bit. Almost like you have two worlds to live and go in between. And eventually, if you really go into retreats, 10-day retreats, and then experience actually break apart much more, and the things just become body and mind when we really give a chance, and it really just becomes the full present momentness of things. The more we are in this kind of mode of perceiving, the also stronger the sense of future, past, self, idea of identity, who I am. And when we really in the mindfulness in the present moment of things, the future, the past disappearing. Maybe you're noticing sometimes in the body scan, maybe you have noticed this, but bring attention to sometimes really it feels there's just the sensation, just the feeling, and maybe that comes and goes. But yeah, there's less room for interpretation, imagination, and it's just the moment, just a sensation, and it becomes almost meaningless, disconnected phenomena, actually. So having the choice which mode to be in, and of course using a little bit more mindfulness always can also give a lot and open up a lot more space to deal with the world, and open the perspective, open the possibility. maybe I will just pause there and check if there's any questions. And if there's no questions, you can also just pause and feel the body.
Raymar, good morning.
Good morning, Jack.
Yeah, good morning. I'm enjoying the course very much indeed. Would you say that as one becomes aware of the changing nature of things as they move, and you start to let go of the grasping, that at the same time one becomes slowly aware of the thing that doesn't change, the ground from which all of this arises?
Depends which tradition you're practicing in. whether you make awareness into a thing or you don't, whether awareness is the thing from which everything is arising in and as, because actually awareness also can disappear and appear. For example, every night when you go to sleep, awareness disappears and appears. And so somehow even making awareness into a thing can be super useful as an idea, and seeing that what is the ground of being, Rigpa. Maybe you know some about that just based on the words that you used. But yeah, the Tibetan tradition, they work more with this idea, Mahamudra, Dzogchen. In Vipassana, they don't work with this. So they even you can deconstruct awareness. All perception is even any perception there's some grasping involved in that. So even the perception of awareness has some grasping, and you start to even get cessations where experience, you blink in and out of experience like almost like deep sleep momentarily, because the awareness is also impermanent. But this is to be explored personally in your own practice, and it's not so useful actually to kind of think about it or intellectualize about it until you feel you're meeting this in the practice.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, I will we can also have more time for questions later, but let me continue. So how would you rate your level of awareness and equanimity while meditating? Maybe it's different, but let's say in your last meditation. 5 is very difficult. 1 is effortless. Maybe you can also give a range if you want. Okay, we have a medium, we have a slightly difficult, we have a, okay, it's more easy, more difficult. Guess it depends on the standard. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe it changes also day by day. This morning for me was quite easy. Yesterday was not like that. So it's also changing, you know. The awareness and the level of awareness and equanimity is also impermanent, is also changing. But yeah, so we have, and this is more in regards to continuing the practice. So just to give a bit of a framework. So we have 2 modes of practicing. The first one is the formal meditation. In our meditation, we face the things that are appearing. It's going to be different depending on your life situation, your current moods, whether there's many relationships you're dealing with, whether you're in a peaceful place, whether you're working a lot. All these different things influence our state of mind, and this is what we face on the cushion. Also, the past habits, how much you meditate, all these factors come into play into the quality of body and mind at this very moment. So sometimes it's very more feels more pleasant, more nice, sometimes more neutral, sometimes not as comfortable. Sometimes we kind of lose the awareness. It's like a black hole, where we lose the awareness, we forget, we get dragged into something, and it's okay. It's all part of the practice. And practicing formally is every day is really the most important thing to continue the practice. If we need to make some space and time every day to really give priority to practicing, because if we don't, it starts to degrade and starts to kind of take less priority, and then we forget about it. So it's really nice to have some time every day. I would recommend 30 minutes minimum is a nice starting point. If you want, you can do an hour. 2 hours is you know, it's doable, but it also takes quite a lot of discipline and effort. At the moment, I'm doing 1.5, maybe 2 hours some days. But this is where we go deeper. So this is where we cultivate kind of more subtlety, seeing more clearly, seeing more subtle avenues of awareness, equanimity. In formal meditation, we go on retreats, for example, like Faith is going to do in 2.5 weeks, where she will go deeper and kind of continually build the practice and build a lot of momentum. And there, really, the quality of awareness, equanimity deepens a lot, and you get a much better feel for what actually this technique is and how to, and access to a certain way of relating to experience. So this is the formal practice. Oops. Then the second, equally as important mode of practicing is in life. So now the question is, how difficult is it for you to be aware and equanimous during your day? So maybe during this week or in the last few days, if you compare the number that you just said for the last question, is it more difficult, more easy in the day? More difficult. 2 became a 2.5. Okay. Charlie, you say it's easier. Interesting. More difficult, Alba. Elena, 2.5 would be more easy, no? Before you said 4, I think.
3. Sorry, I got it wrong. More difficult during the day.
Jack, for you is a bit easier. It helps to release expectations. Yeah, this can also be a factor. So you're not so serious about trying to be aware, equanimous, and actually that can in itself helps release a little bit this clenching, this grasping that we build around meditation, because meditation can also be a form of clinging when we have some strong ideas, some strong striving that we need to do something, that we need to achieve something, that we need to get somewhere. That's why I also remind you to really set the standards low. Like a good meditation is one you did, and then from there, everything opens up. Different every day, and even what period of the day. Yeah, of course, depends on what you're doing. Yeah, but this is just a linking question, audience engagement. So life is a lot more complicated. We face a lot more different situations. We practice mindfulness simultaneously as doing things. So as simultaneously as talking, as writing, as working, as driving, as brushing our teeth, as eating, as walking. And of course, it's more difficult because we are kind of split a little bit more. We have more attention, more energies going into the maintenance of the task or the focus or the activity and whatever it is. And sometimes maybe it's easier because we are going on a nice walk in nature or doing something nice and it feels more pleasant than really facing it on the cushion. So we have things which are a bit more our comfort zone. It's kind of represented by these blue body and mind. And then we have things which are maybe more neutral. Some things are more difficult, especially I find practicing mindfulness in relationships. All relationships is a bit more difficult. More things tend to come up, more stressors, more joy also. But there are some parts of our life where we really lose the awareness. So where it becomes like a black hole and we find ourselves then a little bit later in a state where I think we talked about this last time also, that kind of realize, oh, wow, I was like super tense and impatient for the last half an hour. And only now did I kind of recognize it. And that's a really beautiful moment. This is the moment of, again, kind of becoming mindful, becoming aware, creating a little bit of equanimity again. So we need to practice also in life, because in the cushion, we face a lot of situations, but it also becomes more simple and more easy over time. Whereas in life always gives us new situations to work with. And I see this a little bit like, I used to collect Yu-Gi-Oh cards, like kind of like Pokemon cards when I was younger. I see this a little bit like collecting different kinds of cards, and maybe I become better at being mindful in more easy things, and those are kind of the common cards, but then more rare situations, unexpected situations that appear is more difficult. So I also need to create awareness and mindfulness in these situations. So how do I do that? The easiest way is mindfulness of the body. So just to check in with the body, to feel something, basic sensations, like maybe if you're holding something, you feel just a touch, or maybe you feel the touch of the feet on or you feel the feeling of sitting, or you feel the feeling of walking, or the feeling of standing, or when you're having a meal, you taste, you touch the fork, you smell, these kind of little anchors which bring you back a little bit to the body and to mindfulness of the body. And this keeps you a little bit more aware and a little bit more in this kind of more easy to access this awareness if you need it, if things start to go wrong, or you notice yourself getting a bit more upset or emotional, or if you feel you need to switch this quality on. And again, you can choose how to use it, and we need to, this is part of the process also, to learn how to use mindfulness. It's not always the right thing to use 100% mindfulness, but to learn what different situations call for. Like if I'm relating to a loved one and enjoying and laughing, I don't use a lot of mindfulness. It's just to also stay in the experience and be with it and enjoy and laugh and together. If I use mindfulness, then I become more neutral. Because the mindfulness has this kind of like quality of releasing the things, and then if I use it too much, then the things become kind of meaningless and a bit disconnected. So I need to learn how to use it more and less, and it also depends how you want to live your life, of course. Yeah, so one technique, it's called kind of like dotting the day, connecting the dots. Usually when we wake up, we wake up, we go about our day, things happen, we're happy, we're sad, whatever, and then we go to sleep. When we practice a little bit in the morning, maybe in the evening, there's kind of a bit more momentum for this quality of mindfulness, for this quality of centeredness, awareness, groundedness, whatever you want to call it, to be there. And then maybe the things come a bit more smoothly, and I see myself a bit more clearly. I see the things that make me happy, the things that make me less happy. And a technique that I can use is just to create little moments of mindfulness. So it doesn't have to be a formal sitting, but just, for example, while I'm talking during this lecture, there's just moments when I pause or something where I just, or between sentences, where I just check in and feel the body, just to kind of stay here, stay clear, stay in this nice, relaxed, open way of relating. Because especially while talking, it's easy to kind of get contracted and go deep into some idea, and sometimes then losing the perspective. So just to kind of neutralize a little bit, to open up more the space, the perspective, and I use it in this way. For example, in the last 15 minutes. So, for example, one technique, there's different kind of mindfulness bells you can use, but one technique is in transition. So, you just finished working at your desk, you're gonna go to the bathroom. Okay, I use that transition to just bring a little bit of mindful awareness rather than just already thinking about what I have to do next. Yeah. Okay. These blank slides are a reminder for myself to be mindful. So we have planted a seed. We've planted a seed during these 10 days. And what we want to do is just care for the seed. We care for the seedling. It is still young. It is still vulnerable. If we don't care for it, it will be forgotten. It will just be washed away and be deprioritized. So we want to care for it every day, protect it a little bit, practice, and it starts to grow. It starts to grow into maybe a sapling, a little tree. It starts to be a bit more resilient. But still, if something else comes along, a big storm, a deer that comes and eats it, it will be gone. So we still need to care for it and maintain it. But the more we do it, the less effort it takes. And over time, it actually grows into a much more stable tree, and it takes much, much less effort because it almost becomes much more default way of relating towards experience the more we do it. And we don't need to use as much intentionality, and mindfulness arises naturally as a consequence, because it's almost like mindfulness is also dependent on cause and effect, so dependent on past mind states. So if we create a lot of mindfulness in our past, automatically this carries on. Same with anger, same with anxiety. If we feel a lot of anger very readily, and then more anger more easily arises right now if something happens. Same with mindfulness. Yes. Okay. This was content for today. Okay, Charlotte, enjoy your yoga. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rima.
Yeah, the space is open for any questions. Actually, first thing maybe that I forget to mention usually, but yeah, this course is based on donations, so it's fully supported by donations, which keeps the course kind of reliant on generosity and goodwill. So this is traditional of Dhamma, of the teachings of the Buddha. In the monasteries, the monks who give the teachings, they rely on the lay people to kind of support the monastery, and in this way it stays as a symbiotic exchange. It's not a payment for services or a payment for something, but it's much more out of goodwill, generosity, sharing teachings, out of goodwill, generosity, supporting future students to take the course, and for me to continue researching and learning so that I can share it. So thinking about the Dana, the donation link, which I'll send out as a way of kind of paying it forward. Yeah.
Thanks for the talk, Raymer.
Thank you. There's space for questions now. If anyone has questions about that or the technique, which I'm very happy to answer. Yes, Elena.
Thank you so much, Rima. I had two questions. One is more logistics based. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
One is more in terms of the time to meditate. So with maybe the samatha meditation, focusing on the breath, this can be like calming, so it sets you up for the day. So good to do in the morning. With Vipassana, I found that it's quite tiring because it's almost like I know we're not supposed to be thinking of doing something, but it's not like you're doing something, so it's more tiring. Have you found, and also with the people that you have taught, any preference or any reason to do more in the morning or in the evening?
Yeah. I always recommend to do a little bit more in the morning because it's kind of like it's setting you up for the day. So that habit, the awareness, it then comes more easily throughout the rest of the day. In the evening, it's a bit more like clearing what happened in the day in preparation for sleep, so that the sleep is higher quality. But for me, my main chunk of practice is always the hour in the morning, and then the rest of the day is kind of like a bonus. And if you feel that the Vipassana is tiring at this moment, you can feel free to switch and choose a bit like how you want to approach this. For me, I actually did mindfulness of breathing for my first 6 months of practicing after my first Vipassana retreat, because I felt, the body scanning is too tiring. I don't have enough concentration to maintain it, so I have to use quite a lot of effort. So I just used mindfulness of breathing for 6 months, and then after I felt the body scanning became more effortless, so I use that. So you are kind of free also to whether to use Anapanasati or Vipassana. In the beginning, the first year of practice, I would say it doesn't make as much of a difference which of those we use, as long as we're staying with the principles of the Anapanasati.
And maybe a follow-up to that, is there a benefit to prioritizing longer chunks rather than, so doing a longer chunk of half an hour in the morning rather than have like 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the evening?
Yes. Yes, there is. I would say that 30 minutes in one sitting is great. Because it takes about 15 minutes for us to settle a little bit, for the things to settle down, and after 15 minutes we kind of really start to get going and start to have a bit more momentum in the more clear seeing, so we can work a bit at a deeper level. So it is nice to have like one bigger chunk in the morning, and that's why people also go on retreats, because you can go very deep in the retreat, and then again have like more casual relationship to it. But a little chunks throughout the rest of the day is also really helpful. I find if I do 10 minutes after lunch or something, I find my afternoon is very different than if I don't. More as a kind of top up.
And the last one, and it was mentioned before that the bad emotions just like stick, and I felt that this morning we first had to thought about a bad emotion and then a good emotion. It's almost like even trying hard to think about the good emotion, the bad feeling was still there. When that happens, should we face it as just sit with the bad feeling and just look at it and see if it dissolves, or should we just expect that it's going to stay there until we almost distracted with something else?
I would say for me it's like a middle way. It's like a little bit like resourcing the awareness and equanimity with more neutral appearances, and then looking periodically at the more discomfort, uncomfortable thing. If I stick too much in the uncomfortable and unpleasant feeling, sensation, emotion, I tend to just circle, and feels like you're like resisting and fighting a little bit, but you can't really get out of it. So it's nice to actually resource a little bit with, and that's why, for example, there's the body scanning, because when we say we shouldn't stay too long in the bad area, we actually just continue and sometimes we find, oh, the bad thing has changed or different, or so yeah, kind of resourcing with more neutral, but not completely and ignoring it. Yeah, going back and forth.
Okay, thank you.
Same with during the day when you notice, wow, there's some tension, some anxiety, whatever, some contraction in the body. You can be with it a bit. Maybe it's nice to be a bit more in stillness, but also not to get too fixated and try to make it go away with mindfulness, because then the mindfulness also has some grasping associated with it, so it's not kind of pure or clean mindfulness anymore, right mindfulness.
Thank you.
Raymer, sometimes I find if I'm experiencing unpleasantness, let's say, and let's say it's manifests itself somewhere in the body, I can localize that, let's say, or recognize that. Like, you say like you can keep moving through, don't stay there too long. It's like I can't move off it. It's like I have a lot of resistance towards going somewhere else, but like I'm aware of that, so I will kind of try to give it more space and realize that I am kind of maybe grasping or clinging to it in a sense, but it's like I feel like it's calling for my attention, so that's why sometimes I stay with it. But yeah, maybe I don't know. So sometimes maybe I stay there too long, but it's because there's this huge resistance to move away from it, like a mental resistance.
And what can you give an example of what is the feeling?
Sometimes words don't do it justice. Like I'd say the best way to describe it would be like just an unpleasant sensation, because it's not painful, you know what I mean? It's not pain, but it's just really unpleasant, like that's the only word I can use to describe it, because sometimes it just can't be described. Sometimes the words just don't do it justice,
Okay, you can stay there for a bit, but do try to keep moving. See if you can, because it's also just a form, it's another manifestation of it, like the kind of circling around it. It can be nice to go further away, like, okay, let me go to the feet or something for some time. That can help sometimes, or to the hands, or maybe a little bit of anapanasati, which is more easy because it's more more intense sensation. To try to keep moving, it helps. It's like in noting when we were practicing with Ajahn. It's like you shouldn't just keep noting the same thing. You keep moving. Maybe you come back to it, unpleasant, but you also notice other things, so you don't get stuck.
I had this problem at the temple too. The walk-in meditation was standing stuck in the one place.
Okay.
But no, I'll keep it in mind.
You just go. Okay, forget about it. Like, let's go, and then come back and go.
Like, it's like you almost need to get the right moment for it though. But because I'm aware that it is good to keep moving, I think that's my starting point to kind of like expand my awareness around it. So it's a little bit easier to kind of, it all depends, right? Because it all depends on, I suppose, the moment. Sometimes it's easier to move away than other times. So then I'll bring my awareness to the whole body. And then when I bring my awareness to the whole body, I realize that actually not all the body feels like this. Just maybe there's one part here, and maybe there's one part here, and then there's other parts of the body that feel totally neutral, and some even pleasant, and seemingly all at the same time,
Yes. This exactly. And as you said, noticing also that is impermanence, and how much resistance, how much tightening, or sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's more difficult. This is also part of actually the more we practice mindfulness, the more we zoom out and see that actually everything is changing, everything is beginning and ending. The mindfulness comes, the mindfulness goes, the awareness comes, the awareness goes, concentration, equanimity, that it's all coming and going. And then it becomes less and less about what's actually there, but more just noticing this quality in everything, this change, anicca, impermanence.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay. Thanks. We're a little bit over, but I think there was one thing about someone wrote me a direct message about there was a mosquito that is biting you and keeps returning. And there's just one mosquito. Usually you can just let it bite you and let it suck your blood and then fly away and be satisfied and happy. If it's a situation where there's many mosquitoes and you're in a spot where it's like many mosquitoes, then usually I kind of move. I go somewhere where I switch on the fan or something to also find this middle way. We don't need to, it's all, I mean, it can also be nice to really sit with all that, but we don't have to go so much into the suffering. Yeah, see if you can allow one mosquito to bite you to help it get its meal.
Oh my God, no. Abby from the temple that we were at, he used to say the way that he liked to think about it was that he was donating blood to the mosquito. So it was like love and kindness, but I'm not about that. I used to just catch them and then leave them go free if they survive till the next morning.
Yeah. I think I was listening to one talk once in the Dalai Lama. He was asked this question and then he said, the first time I just let it suck my blood. The second time I kind of shoo it away, like blow it or something. The third time, like I flick it away. Actually flicking them stuns them and they're like out for a little bit.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for joining today this course. I want to do a little bit chanting. Won't take long, like 1 minute, just to close. Yeah, you can just listen. It means to it's just kind of praising the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. The Buddha being the qualities of an awakened person, the Dhamma being the teachings and the kind of law of nature that we are investigating, and the Sangha being the spiritual community, which is all of us. Araham Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivademi Sawakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sangam Namami. Sadhu. Thank you.
Thanks, Raymer.
Take care, everyone.
See you.
Thank you so much, Raymer. It's been great.
Amazing. Yes, wow, I really enjoyed your engagement, your questions. Good. Yeah, anyone can always reach out to me, WhatsApp, anything, here to support.
It's really amazing. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye, everyone. Bye.